latest drone video is sparking new concerns that China's harshly targeting ethnic Muslims.
Uyghurs, a Muslim minority, blindfolded and shackled.
China's attempt to erase its own citizens' Muslim faith.
Welcome to JTV. Recently there's been a growing awareness of the persecution of the Uyghur Muslim community in China. Footage was released of hundreds of Uyghur Muslims being tied up and sent to re-education camps. As a human being, it's our duty to learn more about this and see exactly what we can do to help. We're very honoured to be joined by Rahima Mahmoud, who is a Uyghur Muslim herself. Rahima, what would happen if you returned to China today?
Execution. They would execute me.
She lives in London currently. She's a writer, a human rights activist, and she's actually the director of the Uyghur Congress London office. Rahima, thank you so much for joining us. We're truly honoured by your presence, and we just wanted to thank you for speaking about what we understand is a truly challenging and difficult situation. So it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure, and really grateful for having me on your program.
First of all, I was wondering, could you tell us a bit about the Uyghur Muslim community, what their specific customs and beliefs are, and what makes them unique?
Uyghurs are the Turkic-speaking Muslims, mainly Sunni, and culturally we are very similar to the Uzbeks and the Turkish people. Religious belief, Islam. We have many also secular Uyghurs as well, and most importantly, that we developed our own very unique culture throughout many thousands of years.
Thank you so much. In your own words, could you tell us what exactly is happening to the Uyghur community in China and how long this has been happening for?
At the moment, we cannot, communicate with anyone inside East Turkestan. That's where I come from. The Chinese called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. There's a very tight control. No journalists are allowed in. And since 2017, the mass arrest started in around April 2017. Up until now, we believe around 3 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims are being held in actually concentration camps. It can be categorized as concentration camps, but the Chinese government call it re-education camps. And the people who have been detained in these camps, who were released because they were foreign nationals, and they gave the account of horrifying details of torture, sleep deprivation, food deprivation, sexual abuse, forced indoctrination, and in a very crowded situation. We also know there are many deaths. It's very secret. It's been the Chinese government has been holding all the information and operating these camps in a very secret way. But we do get some information. There are quite a lot of deaths already reported within these camps. And outside camps, about 1 million Chinese cadres, mainly male, were appointed by the Chinese government to move into Uyghur people's houses. And so each cadre, they must spend at least 5 days and living in their home, monitor their life, especially the families that they categorized as some important families. And most of these families, the male already been taken to the concentration camps. So the women are actually experiencing state-sponsored rape, we call it. And the children, We know from some expert reports up to 500,000 Uyghur children taken away to the state, the so-called loving kindergarten. They know how to name beautifully, but it is children's camps as well. And they are not allowed to speak the Uyghur language, and they were fed pork, and they are going through from very young age a very systematic indoctrination process. So basically, Chinese government tried to re-engineer the Uyghurs to become one of Han. And if not, those who refused to denounce their religion, refused to not speak the language, given very lengthy sentence, up to 20 years. Some were tortured to death. And people like myself living in exile, majority Uyghurs that I know, possibly 80 to 90%, we have forced to cut off any communication with our families. So it is a very, very tragic situation at the moment.
This sounds totally horrifying and, quite frankly, sickening. I mean, the torturing, the kids being taken away, the state-sponsored rape, it's truly harrowing. I was wondering, why are they targeting the Uyghur Muslims? And, I mean, what are they trying to achieve from this? Is there any insight in that?
Well, Chinese government's policy throughout history, it's assimilation policy. They have assimilated many, many ethnic groups. There are many ethnic groups in China, they just by name, but they don't speak their language. They don't really practice their own culture. They just become exactly just like a Han. The most persecuted people, as you might know, the Tibetans, because they also have very strong culture, and Tibet was independent in the past, and the Uyghurs are the same because of our belief. Chinese government believe that Islam is actually the barrier. It's that is what's stopping Uyghurs become completely assimilated into Han. Also, what is stopping Uyghurs to have intermarriage with the Chinese? That is one fact. But another fact is the control. China won't have the complete control over East Turkestan because of its very rich resources. 84% China cotton come from my country. And the Taklamakan Desert, second largest desert in the world, they found the natural gas, oil, and then we have gold mines, coal, you name it, the resource. It's a very resourceful area. And also especially the security, what they call it, in order to keep the stability of the region, they had to use this high surveillance control. The reason is the Chinese government fear that the Uyghurs, they are not obedient, and they fight for their freedom, and what they call that they face Islamic terrorism. But in fact, the Uyghurs are just fighting for their own basic rights, very, very basic human rights, because for us, that is our historical homeland, and we should have the equal rights what the Chinese, especially they have been bringing in millions of Chinese from mainland and taking away land, job. So the Uyghurs are for over many, many years, since 1949, persecuted because of this conflict of interests. And also One Belt, One Road initiative, the Xi Jinping's dream, because my country is Turkestan. That is it's the center of that project because the project, it starts from Kashgar, the heart of the old Silk Road. So the combination of many reasons that China is doing this, and for a normal person, for me, it is very difficult to understand the psychology behind all what they're doing to my people.
Can I just ask quickly about your own personal experience of oppression at the hands of the Chinese state and what made you leave for London? I think it was in 2000. And also, I'm quite interested in what gave you the courage and the bravery to speak out against the Chinese state. I know so many people are so afraid, especially people with family in China, are so afraid to speak out against the Chinese state, but you've shown incredible bravery in doing so. And I was wondering what really made you have the courage to do that.
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. I guess it is also from the upbringing, from, I developed each person, we became who we are through our experience. From very young age, when I was little, I just know that there are certain things we are not allowed to speak about. For example, when I was maybe around 5 or 6, my family, my parents, my older brothers and sisters, they prayed in a very secret way. They had to lock the door from inside just to prevent anyone walk in and to find out. And I was always told, don't go out, tell others that we are praying, or we prayed, we practiced our religion. And my father often said, if you say that, police will come and take me away. You won't see me again. So we kind of brought up in that kind of fear. And although later, from 1980s to the 1989, that period, we had some kind of freedom. Mosques reopened, Uyghurs were allowed to, practice their own culture, and but if from the beginning of the 1990s, situation got worse, and especially in 1989, the students' movement, a democratic movement in Beijing, in Tiananmen Square. I was one of the participants there. I was a young student, and the crackdown on this very peaceful movement, and thousands and thousands of the students died on the June 4th, the Tiananmen massacre. Although I left the square on the 2nd of June, I didn't witness the actual killings, but I know many died during that time. That is when actually shaped my ideology, that I felt, even though, you can face so much oppression or any kind of serious consequences when you speak up against the CCP. But I feel it is important that, people have to speak the truth. And the second event that happened was in my hometown of Ghulja in 1997, February the 5th, the Ghulja massacre, a very peaceful demonstration. Again, Chinese government deployed military and police, killing the peaceful protesters, then arresting, terrorizing the whole city. And I was in Ghulja at that time with my son, who was only a year and a half old. And many of my relatives and neighbors, mainly young male, were taken away and served very long sentence. And some even were executed after aftermath of the Ghulja massacre. So combining of many different events, including my own daily sufferings because of the discrimination, despite holding one of the graduate I was graduated from one of the top university, and I studied petrochemical engineering, and my second job was a lecturer in a college, and I felt constantly being watched, and so I felt suffocating experience there. And that's why I decided to leave my country. And I thought maybe I can do something. I can speak my mind if I come to a free country. And that's how I ended up coming here. And my purpose of coming here was to speak the truth. And that's what I have been doing for the past 20 years.
Rahima, what would happen if you returned to China today?
Execution. They would execute me. I know, because we had many intellectuals. I can just give you two examples. A poet and writer, Nur Mehmet Yassin, who wrote a very beautiful, very short novel called Wild Pigeon. And it described the pigeon, through pigeon told a story about freedom. And he was arrested and given 11 years prison sentence. And then since 2014, we don't know what happened to him. A lot of rumors that he died in prison. And this very well-known famous poet and writer, simply because he wrote a story about pigeon, and the Chinese government said that that story is a metaphor and talking about the freedom of the people and instigating or people to go against the Chinese regime. And that is, basically they killed him. And another very important Uyghur person, a scholar, an intellectual, Ilham Tohti, who was a professor in Beijing Normal University, very well known among the Chinese intellectuals, as well as the Uyghur intellectuals. He tried to build bridge between the Uyghurs and the Chinese government, and he pointed out that the relationship is becoming difficult between Uyghurs and the Chinese because of the Chinese government's policies in the region, and he suggested that they should honor the agreement as autonomy. And in that way, then the Chinese government will not face any kind of resistance, and then people can live in peace. A lot of Chinese scholars, intellectuals backed his ideas, but Chinese government arrested him and gave him life sentence, branded him as separatist and gave life sentence. So from all these examples, you can see if I go back, then, it's a death, will be a death penalty.
I know you just mentioned two writers, and I know you've written a book yourself, which I do want to come back onto later. But I just wanted to mention, from what I understand, you last spoke to your family in 2016. From what I've read, they were scared to speak to you from fears of surveillance and blackmail from the Chinese government. I was wondering, do you have any updates on how your family's doing? Does that situation remain the same?
No, the last time I spoke to my brother, after 2 months, I cannot get hold of anyone. It was in 2017, January the 3rd. And that is when my brother said, leave us in God's hand. And then he hung up the phone. And then I learned that this mass arrest started from February, and then large number of people taken away from April 2017. And it's extremely dangerous for me to call up anyone because of this very sophisticated high-tech voice recognition system that has been installed in all these Uyghurs' household. And so according to some high-tech intellectuals, that any phone calls coming in from abroad, that as soon as the phone rang, it automatically alert the Public Security Bureau. And if someone pick up that phone, within 5-10 minutes, police would arrive and arrest the people, arrest the person, sometimes arrest the whole family. And I couldn't really put anyone at risk, by trying to find any information. And I also tried to ask my Chinese friends when they visited, mainland China, and even they felt very scared to call, because they felt that they might monitor, they might know who called, and then they will be targeting them. So it's extremely difficult at the moment. It's really unbelievable. I don't think any such thing happens in other part of the world. At least I never heard of. So it is a very, very tragic situation.
That sounds awful, and I can't comprehend how difficult it must be for you. Can I quickly go back to the concentration camps, just to try and get a scale of what's happening? Do you happen to know the sort of numbers who are in these camps right now, how many who have died under the hands of the Chinese authorities, just so we can kind of understand the magnitude of what's happening?
The worst thing is when you don't know the situation. That's the worst thing. Because for us, all the information what we get is either through some some eyewitness, some survivors, and the leaked documents last November, and also this year in February, Karakash paper, and also from word of mouth, and the expert report, after analyzing the Chinese government's official data. Dr. Adrian Zenz estimated, his last estimation was 1.8 million, and he said it's his conservative estimation. And but after that, we also learned, I personally learned that many more Uyghurs disappeared. And I spoke to one survivor recently, and she said well over 3 million. She said some families, like 3-5 people are inside, are taken in. Some villages, 40% population's gone. And so if we say that according to the Chinese census, is about less than 12 million Uyghurs. And if you have 40% from some part is taken away, you can easily, can work out the number. So also through the satellite image, a Chinese law student in Canada, he identified around 1,200 camps. That was a lot. About a year ago, I read maybe, I don't know what is the latest figure, but according to most of the people, each camp can hold the minimum like 2,000-3,000. And we know in one in Dabancheng, the BBC has recorded just from outside, and that camp alone can hold 30,000 people inside. And so you can easily work out the number. And we didn't hear any like a large number of people being released. And we heard that what the so-called graduated ones were taken to factories in mainland China, and they are working in these supply chains of these big brands under slave labor. So the problem is, if Chinese government really what they said as vocational training centers, if that is true, then they shouldn't hide anything. They should allow, allow journalists, allow people, even if they cannot allow me to go there, but at least, these independent investigators, they should allow them in and to show them. But apart from some vague claim by the CCP, we simply don't have real information.
So the Chinese government are literally coming into people's houses, Uyghur Muslim family houses, taking 1, 2, 3, 4 members of the family, putting them in these concentration camps, making them either work, do some sort of slave labor, or torturing them, and living in these inhumane conditions. And just to clarify, is that how you understand it? Is that what's going on?
Yes. Initially, in the beginning, we learned that they targeted the religious people, the people who prayed, who practiced Islam, who went to mosque 5 times a day, and though some went for Hajj maybe like 10 years before the arrest. Then the second wave that we know was the intellectuals. They targeted the intellectuals, the professors, the very top cultural figures, and the musicians, philanthropists. Simply, they created, can I say the word, a new term. They use new term called two-faced. I never heard this before. It's called two-faced cadres. Two-faced is that you are a Communist Party member, but you're still speaking your own language. You still practice your religion, and you still live according to the rule as Uyghur. And those were targeted because they are two-faced, and it's very convenient for them to take away almost everyone. All the Uyghurs, even the ones who are working for the government in all different sectors, they speak Uyghur language, and Eid, they go to mosque to do Eid prayers. But the Chinese government think that if you are a Communist Party member, then you should be atheist, and you shouldn't be speaking your language. You should be speaking speaking Chinese, and you should eat pork, and you should. So they test these people. When anyone even refused to eat pork, they were taken away. I never heard this, even during the Cultural Revolution. I don't think this happened to the Uyghurs, but a lot of things I simply couldn't comprehend. I couldn't understand.
And what did you make of Andrew Marr's recent interview with the Chinese ambassador on BBC? I watched it and I couldn't believe what was happening. They showed him footage of these concentration camps in China, and he just denied it and said, I don't see anything, and then talked about how beautiful China is, the landscape. I mean, what did you make of that interview?
Well, he just showed his true characteristic, because that is how the whole, the Chinese propaganda is. There is no substance or any proof when they claim or when they say anything. It's really, for the outside world, it's shocking. But for me, it's not, because I lived in that, under that regime for many, many years, and I worked, under the CCP. I know what it is like, because the Chinese say, 睁着眼睛说瞎话, is like you keep your eyes wide open, but you speak like someone who is blind. So it is exactly like that. He just didn't even look at what was shown on the screen, and then he just continue just saying his empty propaganda that the Uyghurs are living in a happy. They even claim that the most happy Muslims in the world. But throughout my own experience, like a Ghulja massacre, for example, the Chinese government made up a lot of slogans which these Uyghurs, these peaceful protesters, never said. And then when they reported to the foreign media, they said these people were inspired by the Soviet, Union after the split, and because these countries gained their independence, like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, other countries. Therefore, these people are fighting for their independence, and they arrest these people because of they are anti-Chinese and anti-government. In fact, for example, these protesters, their slogan is very simple: equality, demand cultural and religious right. That's all they said. But when you look at the television, when you read, the Chinese propaganda about the event is completely different. So I am not shocked. But I'm glad that, the world started to see, the lies, how these diplomats, even living in these free countries, how they behave, and let alone those who live in my country.
Rahima, can you outline 2 or 3 actionable steps which we as individuals not living in China can take to help the Uyghur community?
So for the individuals, and I would ask you to write to the MP. That's number one thing. I think it is important to inform your MP for your MP to take some action. And secondly, the most important thing now is this slave labor. We have launched a call to action on, against slave labor. And because majority of these high brand, including like Nike, H&M, and many brands involved, their supply chains involved in slave labor. So I will say that, when you shop, think twice and make sure that what you're buying are not from the slave labor. That can actually help to stop the forced labor. And thirdly, and most importantly, that I am running a campaign, setting up a very big campaign, Stop Uyghur Genocide. Please donate, GoFundMe, Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign. Join my Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign and add your voice and donate. And so for the government, we are asking the Magnitsky sanctions against the perpetrators who are involved in these mass atrocities and arrests, and the companies that involved in this high-tech surveillance that contributed to the Public Security Bureau to arrest and to make Uyghurs disappear. So there are many things that people can do, but simple things, least is pray for the Uyghurs.
And just to wrap up, I just have 2 more questions. First of all, can you tell us a bit about your recent book, please?
It's actually, I need to pick it up. I'm a translator. I didn't write the book. I must clarify that. So this is a book. It was written by a Tatar woman. Her name is Soyungul Chanyshev, The Land Drenched in Tears. And so I translated this book. It took me about 4 years to translate it, and it won a winner of the English Pen Award. And this book explains, if people don't know anything about East Turkestan, especially the recent history, and from one woman's experience, her life story can give you very important information about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, what happened after they invaded East Turkestan. And she was a student, a medical university student, and she was arrested on her last year of university, imprisoned for 3 years. As soon as she finished her sentence, the Cultural Revolution started, and then she suffered years of forced labor under she was branded as class enemies. So she wrote her day-to-day life about other class enemies, about how the Chinese government changing this region into one of biggest police state and prison. So for people to understand what is happening now, and this is very important, read books like this that can give you very important foundation, historical understanding about why there is resistance and why this persecution developed into, we call it genocide now.
Thank you. And the final question. I know that you do some work with the brilliant organisation René Cassin. Could you tell us a little bit about the work which you're doing with them?
René Cassin, it's a very first organization that did event for the Uyghurs, and the executive director Mia has been really passionately trying to help to raise the Uyghur situation wherever she can. So she is the very important person behind all this, awareness raising among the Jewish community. So my main work with René Cassin is to raise awareness, attending any events, and Mia is one of my advisors of the World Uyghur Congress campaign. And so like MP Pledge, for example, everything that if you visit the René Cassin page, what can we do for Uyghurs? And you can find a lot of very useful information. So René Cassin has been doing really brilliant job, since started raising the Uyghur awareness campaign. And I am available anytime if anyone wants to know more about, the situation, and also about my campaign, and also how we can develop any kind of strategies together, try to help my people.
Amazing. Wahima, thank you so much for your time. We are just totally in awe of your courage and the effective work you've done to help the Uyghurs, and we definitely have them in our prayers, and hopefully we'll include some links in the description of this video to your GoFundMe page, to hopefully some sort of template which people can send to their MPs, and the different ways which we can help. And a big thank you to Emmanuel as well for helping organise this. So thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can see some positive change in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To stay up to date with JTV content, click subscribe here if you're on YouTube and hit the alarm bell. And if you're on Facebook, hit the like button, and under following, click see first. If you enjoy watching JTV content and want to help us continue to grow, please consider making a donation to us by clicking here.